Oh my God. Let's talk yesteryear. Arguably the most popular book of 2026. Comment if you agree or disagree. I'm open to hearing whatever. I am excited to talk about this because anytime a book gets to this level of popularity, it is very interesting to, like be the judge and to be like, is this overrated or is it deserving of the hype? And so I'm only 173 pages in, so I'm going to share my like first impression, initial thoughts, and then at the very end I'll talk about how I feel and like whether or not I feel this was deserving of all the popularity it's currently getting. I heard that the ending is like crazy, so I'm hoping that things pick up or something really wild happens that I can go off of, because right now I'll get into it. Okay, my first impressions I feel like are also very much informed by this question that I ask whenever a new like popular book comes out. What does this specific book add to the culture, and is it deserving of that conversation? I feel like specifically because of the subject matter, which is just like satirical commentary on the trad wife idea, but like conservatism as a whole, I think that is very hand on the pulse. So I feel like this is going to be deserving, even though I'm not all the way through. I think this is very interesting for like what the heck is going on right now, where like America is in like hyper observance of conservatism, and conservatives are also like very much performing. A lot of me is projecting. A lot of my thoughts are going to be projections because I am a pastor's kid, missionary kid, married at 22. You don't do that unless there's some sort of religion in your ear. Went to like a Christian conservative college. So a lot of me is speaking from the experience that I have related to conservatism, religion, threads of like trad wifeisms. The performance of like what Natalie is wanting like conservatism or trad wife life to come off as is really just like a business and like a tool that's utilized. It's not based on like real beliefs. Something else that stood out to me is like the typical church-going nuclear family, which is made up of like a humble housewife who really runs the house, who really actually is doing all the things to make a house a home, but it's not acknowledged by the husband because everyone is like rooting for the husband to be the man of the house. So then you, like all things are put in place so that the man feels like the man. Like in this, Natalie has been asked by her in-laws to help him get a job and to help him secure, like man of the house status. And realized that after getting married, it almost made me sick. It almost made me sick to read this, that the in-laws were coming to her like, we hoped that getting married would fix him. You have this humble woman who's like coming off as like, oh, I'm just the wife, I'm just a blah, blah, blah. But then you have a bumbling fool of a husband who doesn't have any ambition and likely would be in a much worse position if his family did not have access to power and privilege. But because his family has access to power and privilege, and he happened to get a humble housewife who's willing to pull the facade together of like, oh, we're a great, powerful, traditional family. Like, you won the lottery, of course. I think it's very interesting because some people are saying that like they did not read Natalie as Christian. What are we? I mean, mostly I just read her as like a conservative person, but like if you have been to enough churches or in enough spaces, this is a real southern I mean, they're in Idaho, that's not, but this is like chilling me a little bit because it is very much like I know women like this and I can read it in their dang voices. Anyway, I'm enjoying this so far because it's like turning my wheels in a specific way, about performance, performance of like nuclear family, about performance of tradition, but then ultimately like not having real beliefs. Especially, I think that that's getting pulled out mostly when we go back into the past. Like, Natalie, rightfully, I guess, is only into like the self-preservation of like trying to get back to her life, realizing like this is not my life. But I also want to know, like, what is the specific messaging and like the journey we're supposed to go with her when she's in 1855? Because right now, I'm not getting a lot. It's really not as satisfying as when it's in the present. I'm like, honestly, reading through the past moments, hoping we can just get back to the present, because it's much more interesting commentary. Okay, these are my final thoughts. Ooh, first of all, do not even ask me when this was due. It has been a few days. Let's just get into my final things. First off, because this is very much a spoiler zone, I did not like the end that much. I'm conflicted because there are certain aspects of the end that I like. I do understand and respect her going through a mental breakdown and thinking she was actually in the year 1855, because that's what the house was made to be. And there was so much pressure on her. You put the pressure of being trad wife, being influencer, being so religiously brainwashed, even from her mom telling her like, oh, I was only a good housewife because I pictured people watching me and everybody was clapping for me. You know, it's like not inspirational. It will make you insane if you are consistently thinking about how your life is lived through the lens of somebody else. And that somebody else being the big guy, or like just somebody else just watching you, judging you. I think the mental breakdown makes sense in terms of like performance, and you can drive yourself crazy with that. Also, I really have not pointed out the fact that the further into the book we go, the more narcissistic I find Natalie to be, the more it's really apparent that she's just mentally ill. She has no empathy for those around her. She's incredibly self-centered and selfish. She has like no real like warmth and like joy towards her children. It doesn't really even make sense that she's like a mother. But then also like reckoning like the life that you built for yourself was only successful in your like prime and your most coherent. It clearly was like not, it's not like we're not meant to live in 1855. We're meant to progress, we're meant to change. And yeah, when you go around, you do find out sometimes when you put yourself in 1855. I struggled with the whole past present thing. Not the dual timeline, but like the whole like, oh, we're in the past but we're actually in the present, it turns out. Because I'm like, what are we supposed to be learning? I feel like I took away the lack of autonomy to her was really weighing on her, because it is horrific to set that system up, and who set that system up. But I feel like it was shown that she didn't come to terms with that, but it's like, I don't know, it took so long for it to be revealed that the payoff didn't feel that satisfying to me. Also, I would love some thoughts on anything that I'm saying here, obviously, but specifically Shannon's role in this book, I think, was very interesting. I think it was meant to bring in, you know, like the business aspect to really show that she catered to the success of this, and to also show that like, you know, I view you as like a feminist icon, even though like that wasn't her goal to be the feminist icon. It was to be in like these very like conservative spaces. But like to show that aspect of her life, but then also to humanize Caleb. Genuinely, I really did fall for the way that Natalie was talking about Caleb. I really did, because I was like, yeah, he's just this bumbling fool that has like daddy's daddy's money, and would be impoverished if he didn't have the connections that he has. But I feel like Shannon really softened my view towards him to be like, yeah, he's just a guy that was trying to figure it out, and you think that he's so dumb, and that is your problem, that you can't humanize people and like treat them on your level. But yeah, so Shannon, please share your thoughts on how you felt about the Shannon character. I thought it was also very interesting her fascination with Rena. I was like, what is this thing going back to Rena? Like, is it because she secretly wants to kind of break out of the mold that she's put herself into and be more of a career woman? Is that like the duality of like her current existence versus where she could be? you know, because Rena was her roommate, maybe like the past she not taken, because she's constantly like obsessing over her, acting as if like people are obsessing over the angry women, like want her alive, but she's like kind of thinking about this other person who could be labeled as an angry woman. Speaking of the angry woman thing, such I think that's very important important to mention because it is such a prominent idea within those types of spaces of like, yeah, you're just angry and a woman, so your opinion, nothing. Your anger, not valid. You're being a woman, like you're not even really a productive like society of member of society. I think that like in a lot of manosphere spaces, like that's really how they see like women with opinions, just like, oh, it's just you're just an angry woman. It's like, well, look at where my anger comes from, and yeah, like I can't help the fact that I have feelings and thoughts as a woman. But I appreciated the input of that stereotype, that input of this trope, the input of that idea in this book. Of course, Shannon had to be, because someone had to be a victim where it ended in assault. Whether or not the perpetrator was a woman or a man, of course, it had to become a whole entire thing where a politician steps in and it gets swept under the rug. That's how the things go anyway. Like if you know somebody with power, your crime will be dealt with in the way that like you will not have to suffer. Okay, so there are probably things that I'm missing here, but this is just the things that I've like noted. My main criticism is just that the past like wasn't as enthralling to me as like the past is her in college and like kind of growing, and we see her to present. This is difficult when I talk about past, sometimes I'm talking about the 1855, but I really mean like, yeah, that's what I really mean. But past her, like I was more interested in her becoming a trad wife and her ideas about other women, in her and Caleb's relationship and lack of intimacy. I think that's happening a lot more than we are aware of, yet we don't think about it because in these spaces there are 1,000,001 children, so you think like, oh, the sex life is just popping off, but I have a feeling like a lot of it is keeping up with the Joneses, and I appreciated that. So yeah, my criticism is just like the 1855 payoff wasn't like crazy to me. It kind of felt like, okay. People are saying like, oh my god, I really think that I'm like, okay, that was I kind of to me read like I was in a mental episode, as I was like, okay, what? And then we get to her daughter, and her daughter's writing this expose, but it's not as satisfying because we don't really know her daughter that much. So that's my thoughts on the end, but I understand the aspects of it. Okay, criticism that I've heard. So I had been getting this video recommended to me, that Yesteryear's Bad Satire, and the two things that stood out to me about this video were, I can't remember who did it, but I will credit her. She mentioned some things that stood out to me that like I might agree with and see merit in, but want to know thoughts on. She brought up how we don't know Natalie's motivation for her actions, and that was specifically talked about related to like religion. Like how did Natalie get into religion? Why did she keep up with religion? Why was it kind of necessary for her to be somebody that was indoctrinated or like in the Christian Manos trad whatever? I personally did not find that to be necessary. I know a lot of Christians that are just in the things just because they want to keep up with the Joneses religiously, and they don't, to me, have to have like a motivation. I think as a reader, it's good to have a critical lens to be thinking about that, but for me, non-ness. Second, this, the thing that one of the girls brought up was that this doesn't offend anyone. I think this is really offensive to hyper-religious people. Like I'm nervous even for like my family members to watch this, because like I feel like some people might think this is like blasphemous. Like for real. Like I'm sure I'm gonna go onto Goodreads and people are gonna be like, this is an attack on Christianity. This is you know the things that they will say. This is attack on God, and we are no longer a godly nation. That's what we're gonna hear. But I understand the whole like it didn't offend anyone because you understood the things that Natalie would say and like the hyperbolic nature of it. because we got like the message of it, whereas I think a different type of a satire, like Yellowface, the main character of Yellowface, June, she like said things and I was appalled. With Natalie, I really wasn't as appalled, so I kind of do see the merit in that. But I feel like it was direct enough to be satire because honestly, when I read Natalie, I'm like, I know women like this. How this book relates to my taste, I have kind of 5 things that I look for in terms of figuring out my taste. If a book has grief, this did not have grief. If it has social commentary, hella social commentary, huh? Introspective, no. Does introspective have to be like growth focused also? I feel like introspective has to be like a real self-analysis, a self-aware analysis. But just because she was consistently focused on herself doesn't mean it was introspective, right? Let me know how you feel. And then humor. Yeah. I giggled out loud at so many different things in this book. And then thrill. Yes. This was thrilling. I feel like when it becomes a movie, it's going to more so be a thriller. Like, you can definitely see the way that they're going to market it. Honestly, I don't think that Anne Hathaway is right. But maybe she could shock me. Wouldn't it be crazy if they actually got Ballerina Farms to do it, to play the part? Please. I would die. Okay, so I gave this book a 4 out of 5 because it was thrilling enough. Thrilling, humorous, social commentary was used enough for me to like be on my toes with it, and I was excited to get to the end. It's just the end didn't have that big payoff that might have pushed it to like a 4.5 or a 5. Let me know your thoughts. This was pretty good. I will say overall this was pretty good, even though I was disappointed. And yeah, let me know how you feel about Shannon. Let me know how you feel about anything in this book. Wherever you are, whoever you are, wherever you're doing, whatever time of day it is. I hope you have an amazing morning, afternoon, or night.